Welcome to the Patel Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Harsh Patel. I obtained a bachelor's degree in neuroscience and minors in biology and biochemistry. Through that education, this podcast allows me to deliver proper health, science, and self-improvement information to the people around the world. If you have liked any of my podcast episodes, and if you would like to show support, the only way to do so is by subscribing to my YouTube channel and by following the social media platforms of the guests you have liked. You don't really want to miss out on the highly intellectually stimulating conversations we'll be having in our future episodes. Today's guest is again Venerable G. Dao. Venerable has been a Buddhist monk for about 8 years now and has also studied counseling psychology and human development for 4 years. Currently, he runs a mental health program called the Rapid Realization Program, where he hopes to mitigate teen suicide rates with a combination of Buddhist philosophy and psychotherapy approach. This is round 2 of our currently 2-part series, so I encourage you to watch part 1, where we talked about the dangers of AI, importance of meditation and mindfulness, and much more. And this will be a growing series with him. I will also try to dig even deeper into philosophical topics that Venerable has to share. And now, my conversation with Venerable G. Dao. Venerable, welcome to this episode again, round 2. So, how do we build compassion?
Compassion arises out of deep understanding. And I think it's very challenging nowadays to understand people because they're quite erratic. People are all over the place. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing. They move to the left wing. They move to the right wing of the extremes of politics. They take certain stance. And it's difficult trying to catch up with what's going on. I think basic understanding of psychology helps a person cultivate that deep understanding in order to have compassion in the moment of what's happening. It's in a simpler form to have compassion for people to realize that in the moment when they're acting a fool because they are desiring something and they're not getting what they want. Just notice that. Just like McDonald's, you walk into McDonald's and somebody acting a fool, like, I said no onions. What the hell? And so all of us are just standing there watching, and someone's throwing a fit over onions, or I said sausage and not bagel. I said no cheese, because if we slow it down and look at the anatomy of it, it's because they wanted something and they didn't get it, and somebody messed up. So they didn't have compassion for that person because they didn't stop to realize, well, maybe it's fast food, it's too fast. Somebody didn't have their coffee. Somebody got dumped that morning. Someone just broke up with somebody. Someone got served an eviction. Someone's going through a divorce. Um, we're fellow human beings. So, but but you just watch all of these things unfold. And mind you, individuals are unique. So I'm like the only child in the family, and there are many people out there who are only child in the family. So when they don't get their way, they really throw a fit. That can take into account. But through the informed lens of the teachings of the Buddha is that getting what you don't want causes suffering, and wanting something and not getting it causes suffering, and people react based on that suffering, even though it's very minute. They're they ain't having it. They don't have any patience. So that's why compassion and patience actually go together. And when you read the teachings, 84,000 teachings of the Buddha, broken up into 5 original books called the Nikayas, there are so many stories in there. And it is these stories that unite us, and it is these stories that help us make sense how to cultivate compassion. They're actually like clinical examples of, man and woman, of this woman done try this dude done try this woman, what they said in between, what was the moral of the story. Also, there's a book called the Dhammapada. This is actually the tiny version of it, but if you get the big version of it, um, you there's actually a story that is accompanied um, in each story of the Dhammapada. So I find it very uh, educational and very inspiring that instead of reading, Men's Health, Women's Health, all of these useless magazines out there, not the health part, but the entertainment magazines out there,
Hmm.
that if a person spend a few of their times reading the Dhammapada before bed, they slowly gather data and information about these examples of compassion and understanding, and therefore they can use that. It's useful. You can use it, and you can use it to save your life. You can use it to save another's life. You can use it to really make someone's day, have a lasting impact in someone's life based on these stories that's lasted 2,566 years ago. But compassion is not easy. It's not easy, especially if you grew up angry or you have an intelligent mind. Intelligent people are typically more angry, fast to anger more than others. We see a lot of injustice. A lot of things seep into our unconscious and subconscious, and we have to basically hack our own minds in order to stop us in the present moment and realize that what I'm about to say, is it true? Is it correct? Is it beneficial? Is it going to correct this person's behavior? I mean, there's like a whole science behind it. There's a whole science behind anger management. Um, but the more you expose yourself to the teachings, the triple gem, the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, and the examples from the monastic order, being with a monk who is authentic, experienced, qualified, true, and authentic. Through time, you model that behavior. You realize, wow, he's really chill. Maybe I should chill too, because, walking around with high blood pressure is no joke. Walking around, waiting for a stroke is not a good thing based on the anger. And with all of this combined together, compels a person to really want to change, to have a compassionate heart. Um, and you got one life to live. You really want to live it well, from A to Z. There's a lot of grumpy old people out there. All you got to do is walk into a nursing home.
Exactly. So, is compassion like a state of mind that's not aggressive? Like, how would you define the state of mind as being compassionate? Like, it's just that is it not being aggressive towards other person, like emotionally aggressive, or is it something more to it? Like in terms of feeling a certain way while you are controlling your reaction to the other person.
My definition of compassion and my feeling in the present moment of a person who's acting a fool, a person who know not what they do, a person acting out of ignorance, yelling, screaming, hollering, crying, throwing things, is a sincere understanding that they're suffering in this present moment. That I really feel their heart, their mind, and see their action and how destructive it is to them. They're actually burning themselves in the present moment. It's no different than someone holding hot coal right now. Like, so right now I'm sitting in front of you. I am composed and cordial, perhaps professional, and But if I was to act a fool right now and take this noble way full path wheel and chug it, um, which is really bad karma. But if I were to like just grab all of this book and just throw it across the room and cuss and scream and yell and holler and rip my robes in half, essentially what you're witnessing is someone who is severely suffering. They have now been enslaved into the mind of aversion, where it's burning. They're literally on fire. So the Buddha call it the fires of hatred, the fire of anger. And that's what I see. In our previous talks, I told you when I sit on a city bus, I see everyone as skeletons. sitting in front of me is actually a real skeleton named Stan. Um, and there's a skeleton in my room so that I can do death meditation. And really, when I see Stan, I see me. But yeah, I have compassion for people in the bus because I see that they're they're impending deaths. They're going to die. And I apologize for all the dings. We're just ticking time bombs. And again, when someone is acting a fool on a bus, now not only they're a skeleton, they are a skeleton on fire. That is a lot of suffering. So, we can go the academic. Let me see what the academic um, description of compassion. It is sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others.
Mm.
And so, that's dictionary.com. But from a Buddhist sense, you have to be around suffering, you have to witness suffering, you have to replicate what the Buddha did. And what the Buddha did was he took off from the palace as a prince and he wanted to directly engage with the sights of suffering um, in order to understand humanity. So it is no different. It is no wonder that throughout his life, 45 years of teaching, that he encountered serial murderers and prostitutes, and they attempted his life. They tried to get him in many ways, lure him, entice him, and he had a lot of compassion for them instead of judging them. You know, any prostitute that walk up to a person, you would immediately label that person. You're a prostitute, you're a harlot, you're this, you're that. Any murderer that comes up to you, a person would be like, "Oh, wow, wow, you are the face of new evil," perhaps. But like my professor said, to see past the behavior and into the person helps you cultivate compassion more. Again, look past the behavior and into the person. And if you just stop and just meditate on that sentence alone, you realize how powerful, how profound. To literally, here's the person, and you're basically going like this. You're jumping up and you're diving right behind them because they're acting a fool right now. And you want to know what's the underlying cause behind this person that fuels their rage. What's fueling your rage? What's fueling your depression? What's fueling your sadness? What is the root cause of the problem? In Buddhism, we are always concerned with the root cause of the problem. And mind you, I've been on both sides of the psychotherapy tables, me doing psychotherapy on people and me receiving psychotherapy. And never once in 7 therapists that I have been to myself, direct examination, direct hypothesis and testing, none of them asked me, what do you think the root of your anger is? What is the root of your sadness? What is the root of your compulsive buying retail therapy? What is the root of you drinking alcohol? Never did they ask that. I'm starting to think that they don't ask it because it could cure the problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, and of course, on the ethical sides of psychotherapy, some therapists really just drag on as many sessions as they can so they can bill the insurance company. And when you look at my program and the samples of how I conduct my own counseling sessions, I want to fix this human as fast as I can, and we got to get. By the time they reach me, we're already on fire, and I need to get to the root cause of the problem so that I can start unearthing, digging, um, the story and how deep it is.
Yeah. So I didn't tell this to anyone, but I do have a therapist, but now I have to pause the therapy because of my financial situation. So I don't think recently my therapist really helped me out that much. And I'm starting to question what you just said. that what is the root cause of the behaviors that are coming out of me and the problems I've faced. And it's kind of really disappointing to see how a profession like they're like being like counseling can just extend the therapy sessions over and over and not like really ask the main question, what's the root of your problem? um,
Mm.
and my question to you is like what are the habits that a person need to do, like if that person is struggling in all aspects of their lives and they're really like bummed down from life, nothing is going right, uh everything is just going downward, they're just like holding on to anger, resentment. They know all these Buddhist teachings, maybe they know self-improvement philosophy, but their internal state, their own biology is like kind of pushing them downhill. So
Mm.
how would you advise that person to live?
The complicated organisms that we are, it's interesting. We typically change every 5 years. Our views change as our world change and the people that's in our lives. And so it's easy to feel down. It's easy because so the Buddha taught that to be aware of your senses. When you wake up in the morning, eyes, nose, ears, but typically humans, we use our eyes and ears a lot. We watch, we compare. Social comparison destroys one's happiness, expectation, and desire. Those three things causes accumulated despair over time. Why can't I be like my friends? Why can't I make that money right now? Why can't I get this job? Why can't I get into this school? And so on and so on. And so it's very frustrating because we don't have the patience. And we don't have the patience because we internally, unconsciously, and subconsciously realize that we're running out of time. So the younger you are, the more intense it is versus the older you are. Because number one, you don't have the coping skills yet and the pressure to succeed because of expectation and views of the world and comparable cohorts. So you're like, damn it, what the beep? You know, like it's real. You start throwing stuff in the room. But to realize, like I said, not getting what you want right now could be a stroke of good luck, and karma's got a agenda for you. You just really gotta trust the workings of the universe that maybe right now it's not safe to go into certain professions or schools, or it's not right, you know, and karma's going to line everything up for you. What is important during this time of waiting that you don't stop learning and don't stop meditating because that will contribute to your happiness slowly as you're trying to make sense of what's happening. And I'm 36, so there's nothing that y'all have done that I have not done. And how I try to take my life so many times because of accumulated despair in my own life. And I publicly spoke about this in my younger days, you know, when I was a very young interpreter. Yeah, everything sucked. My family sucked. Everything sucked. And I wanted to take my life. And I had access to a gun. And I couldn't take my life because I realized that, well, I'm the only guy in Florida, so it seems, that that is handling all of these very big cases, especially cancer cases. So if I die, who's going to take care of my patients? And it perhaps my job prevented me from taking my life so many times. So I understand the intensity and magnitude of that depression and anxiety waking up. So you know, all these things arises because we don't see things as they are, and we don't think alternatively what's happening in our lives. We're so focused on that one thing, one pointed concentration focus on that one thing, that it brings disappointment when we give much thoughts to it. When we are alone, when we're in the shower, when we're brushing our teeth, it's a perpetual cycling because we're trying to figure it out. Um, it's important that we remain calm, compassionate to ourselves. Compassionate to oneself is very important. You can't come. It's difficult to have compassion for other people when we don't have it for ourselves. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from physical suffering. These are the general statements that a person repeats until they are convinced, until they practice it and and ask themselves and have the conversation with oneself. What am I doing that I'm causing suffering right now? What would the Buddha want me to do right now with the existent of my current desire, with the existent of my expectations, and incomparable to what's going on at hand? Right now, I have my cohorts. So let's just say this: as an interpreter going through life, I once met Dr. Samantha Lindsay, who was like 47 years old when she just started, like graduated as a medical doctor. But when I was this 20-year-old interpreter, I looked at her, I'm like, you must be practicing medicine for a very long time. She says, no, I just graduated last year. And you see the changes in one's life and how inspiring. And you see people like in their 80s going back for their bachelor's degree or 90 years old getting their master's degree. And you wonder, like, what? And when I myself was in college at Ecker College, during orientation, we had a couple people with their masters that said, "Yeah, it took me 20 years to get my master's, but eventually I got it." And I realize I'm one of those people. I realize I'm one of them because of the changes that's in my life, and I'm okay with that. I set a standard for me back in the day that I was going to become a at least 27 years old. I need to have a doctorate in psychology. That's it. 27. If no if buts about it. Then, of course, my grandmother died on my senior year at Ecker College, and I went whirling and spiraling. So it was like, yeah, I didn't get what I really want and what I really planned for my life. But you don't see me beating myself up all day, every day. It's pointless. It's pointless. And again, it's not good for your health. Truly, it's not good for your health. I hope that answers that.
Yes, what made you turn your life back around? You said after your grandma died, after you had suicidal ideations. Like, how would you turn your life back around after that internal feeling of depression?
Well, I started focusing on my strengths versus weaknesses. That's really important. And psychological research reminds us of that, to focus on your strengths, to remind yourself how intelligent you are as a human. That's what separates us from the other organisms and in the animal realm. We're animals just like any other animals. What separates us is, Homo means human, and then sapiens means intelligence. So focus on the intelligent aspect of you, of the human that you are, the intelligent human that you are, and realize that I'm going to figure this out. There are so many avenues that I can explore to make sense of my suffering, and it starts from here. So, what I tell students to do, as I did it myself, is you have to write it out. I have to write it out. The amount of suffering that people go through because they don't write things down. They literally try to figure it out in their head over and over again, but you don't have a plan. When you write it out, you realize, oh, this is where it could possibly fail, and this is alternative, and this is so and so. And I charted my life. I had the determination that I was going to use my intelligence for the right reason rather than just wallowing in sadness, this perpetual vicious cycle of demons in my mind that I was going to make sense of this, get past it, a determination and willpower to get past this damn thing and move on. No one's got time to sit here and wallow in sadness for years on end. It's enough. Enough is enough. So you got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired to have that propulsion. Um, and hopefully, you just have this ta-da, this light bulb moment one morning. I did it without not a lot of encouragement. I didn't have a lot of encouragement around me. I did it during my 1 year silent retreat. It was really tough. It was really tough. It was the toughest thing ever. But I realized that it was necessary. The necessary losses in order for us to grow. And you have to understand that sometimes in life, the more you lose, the more you gain later. Um, Losing is awesome. And there's books written on that too, how to win at losing. And eventually, when you look at my life, you see that, yeah, I've lost so many things so many times, but yet still, I was homeless 3 times. I lost everything 3 times in my life. Uh, and you just bounce back up. Our incredible, amazing power to remain resilient, the qualities of a human to remain resilient. And I think that people don't fully grasp that until you read stuff like Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, which I think you've read yourself, yes?
Yes, I had to read it for a religion class.
Right. So that right there, and you realize this man lost everything. He hung on to hope. And that amount of suffering, if he can get past that, then again, the comparative study of suffering, you see how other people suffer greater than you, no arms, no legs, no eyeballs, still make it happily in this lifetime. And yet here we are blessed with all these gifts, and we're still complaining. So that's a big question mark there, you know.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers that. You know, I had to swim back up the surface, got myself sunk down to the bottom, and again, sheer determination, just a mindset, just a natural mindset, and realize that you know they society and education gave us the how. Now we need to use the how and push ourselves forward.
So what are the things you did to build up that resilience in you?
So the first is to trace back the links of influence, which is the root cause of things. Okay. You approach this, it's like scrubbing the dishes, but like one angle at a time, one spot at a time on a dish. A dish is a person's life, messy. Some of us have like this big steak and this big stain on there that just don't want to go nowhere, and
Cheese,
and we're like, huh?
cheese.
Right, exactly. And so I just started looking at I looked at my weaknesses first to realize, why did I have these faulty thinking? Why was I angry? Why was I controlling? Okay, and then I started tracing the links of influence, and I'm like, and I go back and I teach my students to do the same. Go back as young as you can remember. Who did you grow up with? What did you do? Who did you do it with? Who yelled at you? Who did what to you? The abuse, the addiction, the trauma. This is very similar to psychoanalytic, which is Freud's theory. Okay, and this is the practice of dependent origination. And this is also my way of tracing the root cause for me and for all of you. And then I was just like, yeah, okay. So when I was 6 years old or 5 years old, I remember falling off a bike. Da, da, da. I remember my mom taking me on a train because she was spying on my dad. She thought that he was cheating on her. Then I witnessed my dad and my mom yelling and screaming domestic violence. I was in the closet hiding. I gathered all this information my first time I was bullied. on 16th Street. I just put all these little details together as much as I can remember. And then I see it unfold and I realize, oh, so this is the making of the life of Jidao. This is the making of this angry young man. And then I realize, okay, all right. Then I focus on my strength after you see all of the links that add up to where you're at right now. Of course, which also entails and includes the relationship failures and can't hold down a job. I was able to not hold down a job for like more than a year. Just the patterns and frequency, the frequency and recency. So this is a conversation you're having with yourself in a journal, and I want you to see it, and I wanted me to see me doing the things that I was doing. There's no more running away. The most important awareness here is not to run away from the painful memories, the painful habits, and the self-defeating thoughts. Okay, our mind has a wonderful way of tricking ourselves to run away from anything that is painful. But it is exactly that the Buddha taught us to go through the pain, look at it one last time, go through it one last time. It's what I always say because I know people's been running away. I've been running away forever and ever and ever until that pivotal moment in 2015 where I said, "That's it, no more running. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of running away from my own mind. I'm tired of running away from people. I'm tired of hiding. And that's it, facing it right now." So looking at the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Exactly what you see in the movies, exactly what you hear in the movies. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And then when I saw everything and then I realized, all right, this is where I'm going to start changing. I'm going to start changing my anger. I'm going to have more compassion. I'm going to deal with people in a certain way. I'm not going to cuss anymore. I'm not going to treat people this way anymore. It's not all about me. A change in perspective. So it basically what I describe as start to slowly scrub your dish, one angle, one portion at a time until it's squeaky clean. Starting over with a blank slate in your life. And a person can wake up tomorrow and realize, all right, guess what? Today's a new life. Like a born again Christian, born again Buddhist. I think having a teacher on the side also really helps. A life coach, a teacher, perhaps, that pushes you. They constantly monitor your progress and constantly put you back on the wagon, when you fall off the swing, because it's a tough journey. I did it all in 1 year, but I expect people not to do it in 1 year. Some people could take longer than others.
So you mentioned a little while back about writing stuff, journaling when you're overthinking and when your head is just bouncing around. What would you suggest people to have every day in terms of a journaling routine or a sitting down routine, spending time with yourself, building compassion towards yourself? What does that routine look like daily?
So I don't want people to think that they have to journal forever, nor
Yeah.
do they have to meditate forever. Once you've gotten this down, I don't journal anymore. Maybe one day I go back. I journal here and there to put together a autobiography. Um, but I know what's happening. I know the past, I know the present, and a good guess of what the future will look like. Some of my students are like, well, "You used to meditate. You were a champion meditator. How come you don't meditate anymore?" I said, "I do. I'm meditating right now." And at the time of this talk, with my eyes open, I'm meditating right now. I know exactly each word that I'm saying. I know exactly what is unfolding, what topic we're talking about. So, the Buddha nature of a human is that you don't have to journal anymore and you don't have to meditate anymore when you have tapped into that enlightenment of knowing what's happening. A Buddha is one which knows. And as long as you know what you're eating, how you're going to get to work, the best way to get to work, avoid traffic, and all of it connect this flow, this natural flow without depression and anxiety, um, then you're golden. But for now, until that time comes, and when a good qualifying authentic teacher says, "Yeah, I think you graduated there, bud. I think you've graduated there." But for now, you must do it the manual way of what I describe it. You have to do it the manual way. You have to trust the teacher and the process. And if you don't trust the teacher, then trust the process, you know? And if you don't trust the process, trust the teacher. It's supposed to go hand in hand of waking up, meditating before work and school, meditating while you eat for lunch, mindfulness eating, meditate at the end of the day, right? Set your intention in the morning and then let go of accumulated habits and emotions at the end of the day. You need to keep a journal. When students come to me, obviously we're lost, okay? We're lost because we don't know what the hell happened yesterday or last week. So now let's track it. Track it. No different than the medical model. It's like, yeah, well, your blood pressure is whacked out. Give me a list next the whole month. Take your blood pressure every day. I want to see a list of your BP. So in Buddhism, it's the scientific study of the mind. Let's track our habits. Let's find out what the hell has been going on. Why are we sleeping so much? Why are we working so much? Why are we arguing so much? Why we can't manage money? So every day, dear journal, I had done woke up at 11 a.m., 1 p.m. I done wake up at 1 p.m. Drink my Monster Energy drink, and trying to head to work and beeped at five people on my way to work, screamed at this person. Um, don't like Tom, Dick, and Harry at work. Um, hate my supervisor. Can't get a pay raise. Okay, I want you to write down the complaints. I want you to write down the internal processes. You do this for a week or two, you start to catch yourself. And you're like, damn, dude, why am I sleeping till 11? We spend one third of our lives sleeping, and you're pissing away all the precious time that you can never get back. But what I want students to see is the frequency and recency of what is wholesome and unwholesome, what is conducive, productive, or non-productivity. So that once you see it and you see it for yourself, you shouldn't, if I told you certain things, you shouldn't instantly take it for what it is. You should see yourself, because my job is to point so that you see it yourself. Do you see that you're lazy? Do you see that you're working too much? Do you see that you're not taking care of your wife? Do you see that you're not taking care of little Johnny? Do you see that you're lacking in parenting skills? Do you see how you're not spending quality time with your family? I want you to see, and you see that by and through journaling, because it is the honest report of biofeedback. And then when you see that, now change is a possibility because you realize this is not healthy, this is not good, and I can see the gradual domino effect of my life.
So it's like observing your mind from a spectator's view, but journaling will help you do that over time.
You don't have to be the director of your movie. You just have to write, which is script, which is just tell. Look, the teacher says, write down your thoughts, feelings, and emotion, and your actions. What did you do today? Who did you do it with? Why did you do it? And from what time? I have this sheet. I have this sheet. Um, so I served all areas of law and medicine, so I worked a lot of probation cases. There was one form from a probation office, and I really liked it. And I said, "Can I have this?" So the offender writes down literally an hourly journal and gives it to the PO. And I was just like, "What a great idea!" Because I had bad ADHD back then. I'm like, you know what? I want to take this form and use it for myself. For like 5 years, I still have them. I still have them. I literally charted my life in hour, like the whole day. That's how mindful I was to grab this form and like, yep, I went here. My assignment was here's where I went. This is how much I slept. You saw this V, right? This is V. Where my fingernail is you like the time, like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? The sleep time was like 9 hours of sleep every day that I got to see this huge V pointing, right? Um, so it was amazing to see this weekly, hourly diary, or or whatever you want to call it. It's one sheet, front and back, 1 week. And when you hold this thing and you're not proud of yourself, or you realize, wow, I literally slept my life away this week, then that's when you wake yourself up.
Yeah. So,
And so the power, and now you got so many journals of prompting that gets it out of you. I have a few on the other side of the room. Actually, I just gave a few out. You go to Barnes and Noble, go into the self journal section. There's a section, you know, um, 6 feet, and journal about you, and it pulls things out of you. And these are very insightful. Keyword insightful.
so in that journal that we talked about that had your basically life divided into hours, if we had to do that, would we do it after the day was over, before the day started, or during the day?
During the day, everybody else who works for city employee has to do it. You know, I remember my dad working at the Asian Face Center, and they have this van that picks up kids after school, and they literally had to log in their odometer. I watched the sheet because the driver had to take the sheet and log in the odometer to and from, time logging on, time logging off, and everything like that. Everyone else has to do it. A police officer, he has to call in when he arrives, when he's on the way, and when he completes his assignment. There's a log for that, and he also has to do a report, to send to his sergeant. Doctors have to dictate. So why not you, as the effective and efficient human that you are, or the start of the cultivating process of an effective, efficient human being? It does take a lot of work, but do it. It needs to be done, and do what needs to be done, said the Buddha.
Sounds like a human is like a business to run. Like we're awake for 12 to 14 hours or 14 to 16 hours, and then we need at least 7 8 hours of recovery. And then we also have, if you want to take your business up a notch, you have to monitor everything you do, because at the end of the day, you might lose money. And for us, it would be anger, depression, anxiety.
Right, right. And we have to use these available tools because of lack of mindfulness. But eventually, through time, you don't have to do it anymore. Like I just started noticing myself doing it less and less and less and less because I became more mindful, more mindful, more mindful, more mindful, you know, of what's happening. And I think that my jobs also helped me to be mindful as an interpreter in the clinical fields. I have to be in the present moment. I have to know what's happening right now with judges and lawyers and doctors, what medication, how many milligrams, by mouth, tablet, extended release, uh, and so on, and to relay that accurately and to remember. Um, so it's yeah, you know thyself. This is part of knowing thyself, but then the question becomes how. Well, this is part of the how, and it's amazing. This is why people don't realize the power of knowing yourself and how easily other people can manipulate them, and AI can manipulate them because they can't even manage their own time. So now AI is going to manage time for you.
So, in your life, after you became a monk, what are the like the golden Buddhist stories that shaped you as a monk?
Well, the story of Angulimala, the key salient stories, like for example, Angulimala gave us the moral of the story that you can redeem yourself, you can change. And Angulimala um, was atrocious murderer. I was not a murderer, but all of us have done some unwholesome things in our lives. And to see literally Angulimala killed thousands of people, and he was going to kill the Buddha. The Buddha was going to be the 1,000. He literally killed 999 people, and the Buddha was going to be the 1,000. Um, to see him become a fully enlightened being was amazing. There are countless stories in the teachings of the Buddha that emphasizes time, that emphasizes the how to differentiate foolishness and the wise. Um, I can't pull stories right now out of my head because, mind you, after I graduated as a monk of 5 years of apprenticeship, I became a clinical monk. That meant that I counseled the general public in meeting where they're at using cognitive behavioral therapy um, and using some of the pertinent teachings of the Buddha. And I really didn't have time to share stories with them. So I have to actually go back to stories myself.
Hmm.
But they're, and then after you get the story, you get the moral point, and then you practice some of these things. So eventually you don't attach onto the stories anymore. You actually live it yourself by and through daily thought, speech, and action. The Dhammapada is a very powerful book that gives the stories that emphasizes pretty much the moral of the story lies in our practice every day of what we do. And so there's different type of monks. There are monks who what we call sutta studies, where they go into details of the Anguttara Nikaya, the Majjhima Nikaya, and then they have superior memory in remembering details of stories. And there are people who are analytical, where they're looking for that in order to change. Each story is a medicine. So we assert that 84,000 teachings, 84,000 types of medicine to meet the student where they're at, the complicated minds, the variety of minds that presents to Buddhism. And our job is to try to tame that mind, try to get them to change themselves in some way, shape, or form, the unwholesome habits of greed, aversion, and ignorance. But the Dhammapada is where I would tell everyone to approach it with curiosity. Um, uh, the biography of the Buddha too. When you read the many versions of the biography of the Buddha, you realize that the many kings too. The stories that I was inspired the most is on leadership. Eckerd College emphasizes us. Hey, y'all graduate and make sure you make a dent in the world. I was in positions of leadership my life. Ooh, power bank. And the many kings that the Buddha counseled with, the drama between them and how he got the kings to change, a change of heart, is what I hope our leaders of tomorrow are moved by and is inspired by. To not wage war causes war, and to make peace quite fairly quickly. Um, King Asoka was one of them, a heart of giving, taking care of the people first before one's needs. Those are stories that really touches my heart. And I wish that I could go to the White House and grab the microphone and share them. Of course, opening the book, and at the UN, And somewhere down the line, I just hope leaders have that book underneath their bed, and before they go to bed at night, have a change of heart for world peace. So the variety and vast stories range for individual context, societal context, national and international context as it relates to leadership also.
Recently, well, not very recently, like 2 nights ago, I downloaded on my Kindle Bhagavad Gita. If you know, it's the scripture of the Hinduism, and
Yes.
it opens up with basically how Lord Krishna is kind of guiding this very skilled warrior named Arjun, and they're kind of conversing in a way that Lord Krishna is kind of helping Arjun to see what materialism is and what attachment is and how to detach.
Mm.
And that is, I think, attachment to things, people, and everything is kind of what I'm trying to learn right now. And it's kind of very non-coincidental that the Bhagavad Gita starts with that. And so, what are your views on attachment and how? Because attachment is like I'm having a really hard time between attachment and love for certain things and people because they are very similar, but also if dis bring distancing us from certain people and some or objects can bring you pain, then that's attachment. And that is what I'm trying to navigate. So what are your views on attachment?
I think initially everyone attaches to everything and everybody.
Yeah.
We naturally do that in order to ensure our survival and the survival of other people. Particularly in love, for example, we discover this human and we're like, oh my God, you're amazing. You like pizza too? Like me? You like scary movies too? Like me? Really? I just found another one of me. So we instantly attach, quickly and instantaneously attach onto this human. Attachment is wanting this person forever, not wanting them to change. And through time, we kind of want to control this person too. And anything that interferes with this person and you, oh boy, we're going to have a problem. As soon as another person is in the picture, it's a threat. We view it as a threat. Um, and so through time, we realize that breakups happen, people change, people have a change of heart, people change their original standpoint. Um, and it's really sad, right? I think all of us here have gone through breakups. I've gone through like 7 major breakups in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been in love 7 times.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, so it's like the story of the Buddha, right? He took 7 steps. 7 days after he was born, his mom passed away. Everything has to do with seven in Buddhism, but for me, I've had 7 relationships, serious relationships, where I told them I loved them. I think I gave out like 3 promise rings in my life. But now that I look at their lives, my ex's lives, and I realize, oh, I'm glad we done broke up. I am glad it did not turn out the way that I thought way back when, because I've changed and they have changed. And on, as we reflect on, sorry, this
your
911.
ex.
911. Oh God, no. Yeah, that's my ex, right? Calling me like, what did you just saying about us? You better watch what you say. Um, no, I'm still on standby as an interpreter, so that was a medical case that called.
You can
Uh,
call them if you want.
no, it's I'm not 911. That's what 911's for. Uh, um, yeah, it's people are a lot of fun when they call me. Sometimes they tell me about the divorce case. I'm like, I'm not the judge. I'm the interpreter. You should save it for the judge. All right, so back on point. When we look back, we realize, well, I'm glad I'm not with that girl no more because whatever she done slept with like 10 other guys after I broke up with her, or she done did drugs, or she got into gambling, or she got into all sorts of stuff. People change, and it sucks to sit there and actually do a review on people who we thought different, and now they turned up different. Their heart changed. They became, I don't know, more greedy, more angry, more materialistic versus a heart of loving kindness, compassion, and understanding. Through time, you realize the Buddha is right when it comes to attachment, which is the Buddha wanted you to see the three marks of existence. People are subject to impermanence. They're not going to last forever. People are subject to change, and rarely are they under your control. Okay? Anicca, dukkha, anatta. When you see that, just examine throughout your life. And the older you are, in your 20, in your 30s, you start to look back at everybody and you realize, wow, and research tells you every 5 years people typically change. They change location, places, work, military, moves away, find another partner, or knocks somebody up, and it's like, wow, changing so rapidly. And were they under your control? When Jacob was still alive, my best friend, we had this plan, this life plan. Whereas, we were going to graduate, we're gonna work on our careers, we're gonna take these vacations and travel the world together. That did not happen. That did not happen. And in our group, there are people that got married, and then 3 years later, they got divorced. So I've got to watch a lot of marriages, and I got to watch a lot of divorces. And my dad does immigration law, so he helps the husband petition for the wife to come to the U.S. And then I'm the one who works their divorce cases 2 years later. And research tells us that here is your happiness, your baseline here of happiness. Then you get married, or you get into a serious relationship, and your happiness jumps all the way up. It literally climax, bloop, all the way up. And then about 2 years later, it just goes right back down, close to baseline. So, got to give kudos to people like my parents and many more out there who are able to keep the fire going for 50 years of marriage. You know, it's not like that nowadays anymore. So you enjoy non-attachment, loving non-attachment, encountering in a non-attached way would be to enjoy the moment here with them in the present and now, and not to be attached. Which is, I'm enjoying this moment with you. We're cracking jokes, we're having a drink, or we're talking about the games, we're discussing homework assignments, we're doing this and that. And then eventually everyone has to return to their quarters, their living quarters. And you realize, well, what a great time with that human, what a great time with that person. But I can't be attached because I know about the three marks of existence. And it is my policy that I realize that they're not going to last forever. They will change, and they're not going to be under my control all the time. When we look at the control aspect of it, you see that just the texting behavior alone. You text and you call them, and then down the road you see, like your best friends, right? Like, hey, what up, bro? And then you text them and you hang out, and it's like, hey, yeah, you want to smoke? You want to spark? And then all of a sudden they fall in love with some girl or some chick, or you know or some dude or whatever, LGBTQIA plus. I'm Buddhist, so I can't discriminate. So we accept everybody. And then like, what? I'm texting John, I'm texting Mike, and you're not picking up no more. So how, it was all fun and games until people change. It was all fun and games until people get married or into a committed relationship. Um, so you just look at that, and you look for evidence to back up the three marks of existence, and that's how you will live in a non-attached way to ensure your own peace. The statement here, one should say to oneself, to ensure my own peace, I should live in a non-attached way, and I should look for evidence every day to back up the three marks of existence as the Buddha have taught.
You have to keep saying it doesn't matter if this happens. It doesn't matter if, let's say, you have a girlfriend and we hang out less. It doesn't matter that, for parents, this might be for parents too. Like, it doesn't matter if your kid goes away for college. Like, I will not destroy my own peace, because I think my my parent is really attached to us, me and my sibling, and it's like, it's I question the parenting style that I was grown up with. That, like, if my parent wasn't too attached to me, then it would have been easier for me to be not attached to other people, and especially my romantic relationship.
Mm.
Because I looked at this psychology research. Well, I took psychology 101, and you have all these pioneering studies on attachment. And one of the studies, I don't know if there was a conclusion, or like, you might know this, like, uh, the way we are attached to our parents determines the way we will be attached to the person in your long-term relationship or serious relationship. And so it's really hard for kids growing up who have attached parents, because then you're going to learn that attachment, and you're going to, it in turn, project that attachment outwards. I would like to take a quick break and introduce you to my services. My name is Harsh Patel, and I graduated with a neuroscience degree with a focus on food addiction research. I have also lost 65 pounds throughout this time, and I consistently maintain that weight with evidence-based approaches that I learned from my undergraduate degree and my personal experiences. My personal experiences have given me valuable skills to not only transform my own life, but transform your life if you are struggling with binge eating disorder. It's not your diet, it's not your lifestyle. If you want to achieve the transformation you have always desired, then you have to get rid of binge eating disorder. I remember the days when I would eat lower calories during the week and then extremely binge eat on the weekends. I would eat high processed foods, desserts, and that inhibited me from achieving my ultimate transformation. Sounds familiar? If you're struggling with this same issue, I am willing to take you from your sad state of binge eating disorder to a healthy state where you're no longer having extreme cravings for foods, and you are ultimately achieving the result of extreme weight loss. Because losing weight and loving your body is the ultimate goal of my coaching program. Let me take care of your problem. Let me grab your hand and take you to your future self. All links down in the description. And thus far, if you have been watching this episode, I greatly appreciate your attention in today's world. I cannot thank you enough for the support you are giving me on my YouTube channel and Apple Podcasts.
Right. We call that the attachment theories.
The
I think
four
that's rooted
attachments.
in, right. That's Bowen's. I think that's Bowen's attachment theory. It's been so long since psychology.
It is.
And and so in Buddhism we call that causes and conditions, which
Mhm.
also goes back to the links of influence, because if this is the way how they abandoned you in the crib, or they held you for so long and could not put you down in the crib, So now, due to the causes and conditions, now when your partner leaves you for work and stuff like that, you're like, oh my God, can you like come home and have lunch? It's been 4 hours. But eventually it gets better. Again, Buddhism applies its medicine and teachings onto the human psyche, and eventually we get better. It takes a lot of time to change the organism that we are. So eventually, you will be less attached, less attached, less attached. And isn't that a lifelong practice? It's no wonder why some of us monks dedicate our entire life cycle to the perfection of living non-attached, and not to be moved by anything good or bad, and to achieve the ultimate bliss of peace.
I think that's a great habit to cultivate, even for going back to compassion, because if you just look at the person's soul or their suffering, like you can really relate to them. You can put them, you can put them in your shoes, or you can look from their perspective and not be too concerned about just being in the moment and judging their behavior.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you this, and after I tell you this, I'm gonna make a Buddhist dating app. All right.
Okay.
The key in love is ideally you want to date perhaps another Buddhist. Okay.
Hmm.
But this is why we have like Christian mingles. Maybe I should make one that says Buddhist mingles. And you have this conversation. Eventually, you will go out, you will eat, you will, have wine and spaghetti and stuff together. Somewhere down the line, there has to be a unifying story and platform for both of you to operate on. And that is, Sarah, I love you. You know that I love you, but in a non-attached way. And you define it. You define it the way how I just defined it, for all of you. And I love you. I love enjoying time with you. Sex is great, but you know, I can't get too involved, and everyone is responsible for their own finance. Everyone is just responsible for their own time. Um, Hopefully, that you want this as much as I do. It has to be a unifying, cordial conversation between two parties in love and non-attached. People get themselves in a lot of trouble when they start depending on the other for emotional needs, financial needs, and it starts to make the relationship very muddy and not what it is, and it's become less fun. And that's why people, they're like, I hate love, or they even say the word F love for that because they don't know how to love. Our great masters, Venerable Thich have said, wanting to love and not knowing the how wounds the person that we want to love. Uh, and yeah, people don't think about that. I love you, but I don't know how to love you. And therefore, you're going to make all sorts of mistakes, directly or indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly. So, when two Buddhists attempts to love, they speak that language, the language of impermanence, the language of change, and the language of the non-self. And and also, they would love unlike any other. They would love like the world has ever seen because of the death meditation that's being taught, which is, baby, I love you. I'm gonna kiss you this morning, like it's the last it's the last day of my life. Um, that I'm gonna love you today, like I'm never gonna like I'm not gonna see you again. And so when two people love like that, it intensifies the experience, creating that nirvanic bliss, of feeling. And whether or not if one of them passes away or dies or changes tomorrow, that's okay because both parties would have done the best they possibly could with the time that they had, with the people that they were with, and the resources available to them.
It's very powerful. That's so powerful. Like, I just imagine that if there are two people dating, both did that meditation and like I could just see how both would give their 100% to the relationship every single day, and one of them wouldn't be so like pushy on each other, or like draining other another's energy. But in fact, like both, like this is like saying both will give equal amounts of energy to each other and efforts to maintain that relationship.
The relationship might look very different also because each party is aware of the me, my, and the I, the practice of the non-self. And we see how much suffering we cause to ourselves and other people when we complain a lot, like my pain. I want a new house. I want ice cream. My back pain. My doctor sucks. My teacher sucks. When we hear these me, my, and I, we create this illusion, and then we personalize things, and it really, really affects our peace and harmony and tranquility of our mind. So and of course, ideally, when the couple is Buddhist, they live mindfully. They're very chill. They're very relaxed. They know when to play with their phone, when not to play with their phone. They know when to absorb the present moment. They live effectively and efficiently, not letting themselves stress each other out or work, home, and school to stress them out. It's like two gods, a god and a goddess, or vice versa, or you change it around. But literally two mindful saints, loving as you will. Uh, and again, having control over the body of knowledge of the Dhamma, the teachings of the Buddha, one really lives it out, unlike the world has ever seen, loving like the world has never seen. Um, you know, any of us can describe thousands of ways where relationships went wrong, and you can get a PhD in relationships. And so the Buddha himself gave instructions on how to treat your wife, how to buy her nice things, how wives should treat their husbands, waking up at a certain time, going to bed at a certain time, taking care of your husband. Like it's a mutual respect of boundaries, mutual respect and understanding of uh, nurturing each other. Um, and it's beautiful, beautiful. The Buddha taught everything. 84,000 teaching. He literally taught people how to live in details, how to manage your money, how to save for a rainy day, you know. And so that's why I say, I might as well, create a dating Buddhist app.
You should. Too bad I don't
Buddhist
have coding
mingles.
skills.
It's my vision. I mean, you people are going to strive to love constantly and always. It gives them something to look forward to. Um, it's difficult being a monk. I don't expect people to become monks or nuns. And so, yeah, if they're gonna do it, then let's create something for them to operate on, a necessary unifying language, the love language, a Buddhist love language, so we have less despair, less divorces. Our job is to make sure judges don't have that role of divorce courts.
Yeah.
You know, that's the goal. Put them out of business, as Buddhists that we are. So I would invite people again to look deeply into the teachings of the Buddha and what it can do for you, your existing marriage, or your anticipated marriage or committed relationship.
So, what do you think is the greatest mistake young men make in relationships? Like the greatest mistake any young men could make is having too many casual relationships and one-off encounters. But what is the greatest mistake you think young men make in serious relationships going on towards marriage?
But jump in it too quick. They don't. They jump in it too quick because they don't know themselves. They haven't done the work on themselves, and then they jump into it. That's always been the greatest mistake. Always have been and always will be. That's why we are still around. That's why, Buddhism is still around, because Buddhism just wants you to understand you and make choices mindfully, because you will have to live with these choices. And so many people live with regrets as a direct result of not knowing themselves. You know, when you ask questions going back in time to reconstruct their mistake, you realize that they had no idea what they were doing, unaware of their motive, unaware of their intentions, unaware of their feelings, unaware of their thoughts, unaware of a lot of things. And men's health versus women's health. Okay, first of all, men tend to die younger than women. Women live longer than men. Men have more psychological and health problems than women. So we really have to take care of each other. We really have to pass on good information, valid scientific information, making more informed choices, more wiser choices. Uh, because I see a lot of despair in men, the decay in men, the age and decay in men very quickly. And there are some students in their 20s that look like 30s. Some in 30s look like they're in their 50s. And some in their 50s look like they're 70 or 80. And it's like, wow, life's done a number on you. You've done a number on you. So I emphasize health for all because, like I said, use the best available science about relationships. Use the best available science in anything. Knowledge is right there in the palm of your hands on the phone.
What's the role of lust in relationships? How, actually, as a monk, how do you control lust? Like, it's not an easy thing to do.
Sure, it is. You practice right and you follow the advice of the Buddha. Simple. Lust, when we fantasize, romanticize, and sexualize another human being, it gets us all sorts of trouble. Do you think that you can just have sex and they're not going to be attached? They'll find it. They'll find something to attach on. They will find something. Do you think you can just have sex with no drama? It's a rare thing. Um, we see the consequences before we jump into it, and it comes with life experience. And like I told you, in my 20s, I've done it all. I've lied, I've cheated, I've stole, I've done it all. I've stolen a lot of hearts. I've broken a lot of hearts, and vice versa. And so therefore, the wisdom to know quickly that, oh, she's a lot of fun. Really? Hmm. And what are the consequences that comes after that? And people don't really ask themselves that, do they? Ah, there are rules and there are consequences. So you better know the rules and you better know the consequences. Um, because it's coming. That temporary fun, oh boy. Let's talk about when we talk about lust, let's talk about the mistakes of that and what people in society have paid, which is 18 years child support. Oops. That's a big oops. And how many big oops out there when they done played and forgot about the consequences for just that couple minutes of fun, of climax,
Couple
of
minutes,
ejac.
couple hours.
Well, research shows 7 minutes average. And for the ones that can go for a couple hours, kudos to you. But but then it's all fun and games until she says, "I tested positive. I'm pregnant." That's what you don't want to hear. So if somebody's positive for something, it's either STDs or somebody's done got knocked up. And that's when you realize, wow, I had sex for anywhere from 7 minutes to a couple of hours, perhaps 2 rounds, all to get high blood pressure at age 25. And now I'm on amlodipine 500 milligrams twice a day.
That is rough.
They don't ever think about that. The physiology, the physiological responses of some of these moments in life that like you want more happiness. You want more roses and less thorns. And a lot of people steps on thorns all day, every day, and still haven't learned their lessons. I got I got a student. I got actually a couple, like a few, just a handful though, handful that God they love women. God, it's like they can't live without women, and they got kids. Oh Lord, they got kids, and the amount of child support.
Wow.
I mean, if the Buddha sat here, he would shake his head. He would be like, "Oh, hmm." So lust, I mean, it's you got to put that in check. And again, 32parts.com, meditating on the 32 parts of the body. Be if you're gonna have sex, be smart about it. Wrap it up. No glove, no love. Period. You know, and have a conversation. And before you have sex, now you need to ask yourself, can this person be wife material
Exactly.
before you do the dance? You down, I'm down. Let's do this. All right. Because if you don't do that, oops, and now they are the mother of your biological child. And if they have bipolar schizophrenia or schizoaffective, controlling, manipulative, gaslighting, oh boy, that's one hell of a karma.
Yeah, I always thought about um, when you should have sex and why you should have sex. And I mean, I'm not gonna say I figure it out, but I think the person you're dating has to be, you have to look for something that's screaming at you that, okay, this could be my potential partner, marriage partner. You can't just like, first of all, I don't think anything's wrong with having sex on first date or second or third date. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong. It might be totally wrong, but I feel like delaying is the best thing you can do sometimes. Like,
Well, the problem is that you you're supposed to have sex after you meet. You guys ever seen like lions or like what I mean, like other species,
mhm,
like like when they mate, like turtles and stuff like that. Like when they mate, they're like literally, it's just like you watch them, and it's literally like if you could put words in their mouth, they'd be like, "Hey, what's up, dude? You down? I'm down. Let's do this." You know, face down, ass up. That's the way I like to. And they do what they do. But we humans have become so complicated with sex, the meaning of sex, and like and then prior traumatic experiences also take into account the meaning of sex. What does it mean? Uh, Insecurities along the way, and then the study of sexology. Like I said before, in Japan, when reporter asked these women, why is Japan becoming a sexless state, and many more countries becoming a sexless state? They were like, we'd rather be single because we don't want to get entangled with anybody else. Keyword entangled. That means impossibly complicated problems with other individuals, with the story that they have concocted in their head and the expectations that they have for men,
yeah.
um, and pornography and everything else
And
in between. So it's like it's not fun anymore. It really we need sex to remain healthy. We have needs. I
yeah.
recognize that. I recognize that for all humans. But we've made it our own mind. Have created barriers for humans to maximize their capacity for the enjoyment of life amongst each other in a very short time span of human lifespan. So, so how do we fix this, right? Damn it. Think simple. You down, I'm down. Let's do this. All right. And do it in a way where somebody's on birth control and there is a glove, no glove, no love. The existence of condoms and other contraceptive, because if you do it in America, you knock somebody up. We got this abortion bill out there, so be mindful of that. You don't want to get yourself in trouble with the abortion situation. Again, it's all about mindfulness. Um, and just keeping it real. Don't lie. A part of the complicated process of human interaction with sex is that they lie. Like you don't have to overinflate yourself. You
Mhm.
are who you are. If she gonna like you for who you are, she gonna do it. When she feel comfortable enough, she will tell you, and vice versa, male and females.
What's the role of masturbation in Buddhism? I always thought
I
like all religions, like, what's the role of masturbation?
I rather people masturbate than run around and rape each other. That is the short answer. Now, within the monastic order, we cannot masturbate, and nor can someone help us masturbate. It's very clear in the Vinaya. So,
Yeah,
sorry, these power banks are very annoying. They're like, okay,
huge.
yeah, they're huge. People have needs. The more you tell people not to do it, they're gonna do it anyways.
Yeah,
And I think that masturbation is healthy when you have urges. And right now, it's a masturbation is a coping mechanism for people who can have certain physical needs met because I just explained earlier that humans have become more complicated and they just can't seem to dance and dance to dance intelligently. We got this field of study which is sexual intelligence. Um, so yeah, I mean, y'all have my kudos. Again, I would rather people do that than rape each other and commit very serious felony offenses in the world.
but how do you separate porn and masturbation together? Like, how do you? Because it doesn't exist. Masturbation, I have never. I don't know. It's so hard because people who are masturbating are watching porn. Mostly, not everyone.
Yeah, uh, I think that you should because when we know about the human biology, our bodies and our minds and our pituitary glands and our hormones and stuff like that, why do people like porn? Well, millions of years ago we didn't have clothes. And then somewhere down the line, the law made it very clear you need to cover your behind up. You need to cover everything up. Um, Indecent exposure should not. No, that's a big no-no. So we put clothes on us. It's really nice covering our bodies. But then we always wonder, our primitive mind is like, we always wonder what she's working with down there. We always wonder, is that a B cup or is that a C cup? Men do this, all right? And women do this, right? Women are like, damn, I bet he got a kadonk down there or whatever. They do that. Humans do that so that they arouse themselves, so that they could go forth and multiply, said in the Bible. So again, it's our primitive mind that I wonder what other naked people look like. And so that's why they watch porn. And the existence of porn is like now crack for everybody, cocaine for everybody of the
Yeah.
mind. Too much of it is not good for you. It is my standpoint that too much of anything is not good for you. You want to watch porn? You have my blessing. Go ahead, go watch porn. You want to masturbate? Go ahead and masturbate. You want to drink? You want to smoke? Go ahead. Just don't do it so much where you have no idea what on earth is happening. Don't do so much where your health is severely is at risk, and you threaten your body. The Buddha says, take care of your body. It's from point A to point B. It is your vehicle for enlightenment. But so I just don't want to see people in the ER or 6 feet under, and it will lead to that. Again, my job is to lead people into stream entry and the four stages of enlightenment. And I know sometimes maybe this is not the right time and people are still coping and people are still exploring curiosity. It is through practice and time and change that they will reach certain spiritual heights where these things will mitigate, lessen, and eventually cease. Eventually cease. And when that comes, then you are more closer to enlightenment, if not enlightenment yourself. But it is not my standpoint to say, no, you should not watch porn. No, you should not masturbate. No, you should not have sex. No, you should not smoke and drink. because I know that once we start saying no, y'all gonna do it anyways. And what am I gonna do? I police everybody? Like, there's no system of enforcement. So we teach the middle way. And though the middle way is now harder, but I assert that we're making incremental progress, um, given the challenges of the 21st century and the evolution of AI and, hentai. What is that new AI generated porn? Hentai porn, whatever is going on. Um, we have to know these things. We have to study these things. We have to study sexology and porn and the effects of, because it relates to relationships. Addicted to pornography affects relationships. People can't have sex. All these complications with sex and relationships, we have to know in order to counsel the married couple or the committed couples effectively. All holy men have a big task of trying to keep people together as much as possible.
Yeah, that was very alternative perspective to, like, I had this individual, my one has become one of my friends, Caleb Harris, was on episode 4 of this show, and we were just talking about porn addiction and stuff, and we both agreed on this, that moderation might work, but in our cases it did not work because it was like kind of like opening the floodgates. Depends on, so that's where individual variation comes in play. It's for me, when I think about, when I do like a high, I if I have very high carb meals, like I binge eat. And so that's why I started eating meat, against my own religion, just because I wanted to get the benefits of meat and not binge eat, because that's how I wanted to live. And so coming back to that porn, we both, me and Caleb, both agreed on why moderation might not be the best. But I can see in some cases moderation could work, because we'll have this AI porn now, and we'll have all sorts of things, sex robots, and like, how are you gonna like stop people from doing the fun they're gonna want and desire?
I also need to give the following disclosure and cite the precept to educate a little bit about the precept. Number one, these are views of the school of Qidao and not view that encompasses the school of the Theravadins. And
Uh-huh.
there are senior Theravadins that may object to what I said previously because, of views and changing views through time and history,
Mm-hmm.
and also to cite the five basic precepts. And one of the precepts is to refrain from sexual misconduct, which basically says that if you want to have sex, make sure it's consensual. And there are also questions in Buddhism like, can I have multiple sexual partners? The question is, make sure that it is consensual, right? We have polyamory, we have the existence of that, we got swingers, just our society has the existence of these things. We acknowledge them in Buddhism. And again,
Yeah.
we assert that make sure that you exercise supreme intelligence, wisdom, and consent so that it doesn't violate law and you don't hurt people, harmful, due to the fact that you're lying or due to existence of certain personal disclosures like HIV diagnosis or STD diagnosis. So again, you want to be able to live a happy, healthy life and not, conclude your life at the end with a lot of enemies and, STDs or life-changing diagnosis. So I need to give that disclosure.
Yeah, that was awesome. It kind of gives you the approach of Buddhism in this modern world. So I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Any last messages to our young audience?
Buddhism is awesome. It's non-toxic. It's very welcoming, and it's there to teach you the middle way of moderation, um, and to live life intelligently. We have a lot of competing issues right now with the biotech, infotech, and the existence of AIs.
Hmm.
In an ever complicated world, it is my continuous encouragement for all the young people to look what will work for you. And I hope to inspire all of you buying through my own journey. Um, in the language that I've used today is to let you all know that I'm very real. I don't sugarcoat things. I put
Yeah,
myself out there. My life is up for examination, and to help each and every single one human achieve peace and to try to make sense of this complicated world. Our job is to try to make our lives uncomplicated in a complicated world. And hopefully it's a continuous conversation and continuous adjustment of change. But I hope that everyone reflect on what was being said today and more conversations down the road, more productive conversations down the road. And people will slowly achieve that inner peace, liberation, and freedom that they've yet to experience and yearn for.
definitely. Well, I have one last question, which I wanted to ask, like the last episode. In this new and changing world, you are famous on TikTok, 1.3 or 1.2 million followers, a very high following. You have your personal desire to educate people on Buddhism and philosophy. Um, but there is a slight issue there where you might have faced this. How do you take time off from the virtual world?
I take a lot of time off from the virtual world.
Yeah.
It was intense in the beginning because I had a set goal that I need to first of all walk the talk. All right, I practiced in solitude for the first 5 years for public examination to see that I'm doing exactly what the Buddha wanted us monastics to do, which is find a tree, sit underneath it, and often, and that I have done. So I've demonstrated 5 of my 20 years of meditation for public view to see to inspire other people. And then along the way, when I opened up the counseling sessions, I just hit record, and there it is. There we are. So people to see how I conduct my services and to cater to the people, how I teach, my modality of teaching. And then when the camera is off, I'm groovy. When the camera is off, I'm back to reading. I'm back to meditation. I'm constantly updating my software. I'm exercising. I play extreme sports. I go rock climbing. I, fall, get back up. It's a very balanced life. That's why a lot of people they don't believe that I'm 36. They're like, you look like you're 20. So I really live the path of moderation. I really live and exemplify it and inspire local students here who come and hang out a lot with me. They come, they hang out, we chat, we laugh. As much as me and you laugh just virtually, can you imagine the amount of laughs that's being shared here locally? The amount of jokes.
Yeah.
Oh God, the amount of jokes and rated R jokes that are happening along the way in
Mhm.
inspiring Gen Zoomers. So I find it a lot of joy being with students, taking them to and we visit all sorts of places. Like we have a lot of fun. Then when it comes to practice, it's like, all right, so who's ready to go to the cemetery with me? And they're like, okay, and they just go with the flow. You know, we talk about this one thing, and then we turn back to our serious practice, and then we come back. So it's a constant flux of the programs. And again, it's plenty to do in Buddhism. There's never a dull moment. And I try to share that as much as I possibly can with all of you on YouTube. YouTube is where you really get to see like what's happening here. What is the School of Jidao all about? Um, so yeah, you guys don't have to worry. I'm changing with all of you, and however technology is moving, not too much of it, and get plenty of rest and sleep.
Awesome advice for the young folks out there. Thank you for coming again. We had a great talk. I can have you on again. We can chat again soon. But this was awesome. 2 episodes back to back, and I feel like we just should have extended our conversation on again last week. Made it a like a 2-3 hour episode because this conversation just can just keep on going and going. But
Yeah,
thank you so much.
you're welcome. You're welcome. The other thing is too is sometimes I rush through things because of anticipated topics to be covered all in the 1 hour or 1.5 hours. But one day, if you said we should just focus on relationships and love,
Yeah.
then it'll be a whole shebang on love. And if you wanted Buddhist stories, then I would go back into it. Matter of fact, when I was sitting here before you went on to the next question and went
Well,
to the table of contents within the bi within the biography of the Buddha. We have the story of the beautiful Yasodhara,
mhm.
Chandaka. Uh, there's so many stories, in the teachings of the Buddha. But again, it's not my specialty, and I've become quite simple monk versus in my younger days of paying so close to details to everything. But 84,000 teaching, you just think of more, and we'll knock it all off. This is a good week to do it. I think next week's a little busy, but for some reason today, a lot of calls, a lot of medical calls. So I gotta return back to that. But yeah, as you have time and we have time, that's how you get the conversations going. And once again, it goes back to the first thing that we discussed today was contributing to knowledge is very important because we are battling the secularism in America, and we're battling the new type of egocentric narcissism in America, a new evil that lurks in the minds of the young, the extremism in the minds of the young. So every time when they get to see this open dialogue conversation, and I hope that Buddhism eventually spreads even more by and do these talks. And I hope you understand, Harsh, that this is the greatest gift that excels any other gifts in the world, said the Buddha, is the discussion and conversation of the teachings of the Buddha. So it's a supreme abundance of merits for you, for me, for everyone that is involved to receive these treasures
Mhm.
in Buddhism. So, again, but I really appreciate your honesty in identifying the voices in our head every morning that tries to defeat us and our goals and motivations. I share that mutually understanding with you, as there were times in my life where I'm just like, really? Just a couple of hundred views or a couple thousand followers. But just keep going. Even again, just when you don't know the certain people who are eyeballing and watching, they're waiting to invite you to the next TED Talk. You might not know that, or the next university who is going to invite you for a graduation speech. You just don't know. There's so many people out there. Once this circulates around the world, when
Mhm.
your time comes to shine, it will come to shine. If you have a passion for it, people will know.
Okay.
People will know.
Hey,
But yeah,
thank.
it's a very fun conversation and very good questions. Very, very, very deep. Perhaps next time we go even deeper, in depth. A lot of my podcasts have been very surface level and not in depth, so it doesn't do that much justice, I don't feel, for
Right.
people to understand the how to love.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, we can go in depth, no problem. We have to address every issue and the root of the issues regarding love, relationships, finances, but we can focus on one topic and go in deep. Definitely.
And since that video blew up for you on insecurities, we can also expand on that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Insecurity. Yeah.
A lot of people struggle with it, especially like people who, let's say, are really attached to their own body. Not to say that you shouldn't be healthy and lean, but they're just too in their heads about their heights, height for that matter, not the weight, but height and certain body parts.
We're more attached to our bodies than anything in the world.
Exactly.
That's why, dermatology makes billions of dollars each year
Oh yeah.
because they want to preserve everything, no wrinkles, no lines. Um, they they really put so much energy, effort, and money into it,
Mhm.
thinking that it's going to last forever, not applying the three marks of existence. So
Yeah.
big oops right there. And I failed to actually say that during the podcast, but yeah, the insecurity thing everyone battles with generation after generations. So to shine light on it would mitigate suffering for a lot of people.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, we'll chat again soon. Thank you for bringing out your knowledge about compassion, relationship attachment, and all the other things we talked. I'll definitely keep in touch.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful day over there. Take care.
Thank you.